Hello everyone. In today's video, I'm going to show you the top 5 tools you'll want to have on hand whenever you go service, stock, or refill your vending machine. Having these 5 tools on hand is going to keep your machine in operation and profitable. If you find this video useful, please like and subscribe and comment below. The first tool is a Phillips head screwdriver. I always like to get a Phillips screwdriver that's got a long neck. Now, this is a number 2 Phillips head screwdriver. This one I find is the most useful. But having that long neck is going to allow you to get to those hard to reach screws. Because many times in vending machines, the screws and nuts may be at the back of the cabinet, and having that extended neck, is going to really help to get to that screw that you need. So again, Phillips head screwdriver, great tool to have. Next tool, very important, is an 11/32 nut driver. Now again, keeping with the theme, we have a long neck, but also have a hollow shaft. So having this, so a lot of times your dollar bill acceptor and your credit card reader are held on by nuts that require an 11/32 nut driver to get that. So example, this is a typical stud where you hold your dollar bill acceptor on, for example, and you can see we've got a lot of thread that we have to get past. So having that hollow shaft allows us to slide in there and get to that nut and remove it or tighten it up when we need to. So again, 11/32 nut driver. Next one is going to be a 1/4" nut driver. Again, long neck, hollow shaft, but most of the time when you do your 1/4" nut driver, you will be using, basically removing these 1/4" screws that hold trims on, they hold the control boards on, they may hold motors on. So having this 1/4" nut driver is really going to help be able to remove those nuts and screws. Moving on down the list is a multi-tool of sorts. And this is going to be the trusty flathead screwdriver. Again, especially for the pesky flathead screws that you'll find on many Crane National vending machines, the sheet metal screws that hold the trim on, they all have flat heads like this. So having that flathead screwdriver allows us to get to those screws and remove them when we have to. The other tool, this is a multi-tool of 2 tools in one, is having this is actually a device where we can actually use to leverage to pop things off. We can pry things out, pop things off because of this small narrow tip here. So again, flathead screwdriver is a great tool to have in your tool bag. And the last but not least is going to be a good old set of needle nose pliers. Now, hopefully your needle nose pliers aren't going to be as ratty as these. I've had these for about 30 years and I refuse to retire them. But again, a needle nose pair of pliers with a long, nice, fine tip. Got a little cutter here in the center that allows you to strip wires. And make sure when you get yours that you've got full insulation. These really need to go be put away, but hey, I cherish these. But so having this, we can grab screws like so, and we can pull those screws out. We can bend pieces of metal and make them straight if they've been bent. We can actually use this to actually cut bad wires. So let's say you have a wire that is bad, and you can cut away the bad piece like this. And also you can go and strip the wire to get down to the bare copper. So I'm going to go ahead and, so let's say you've just cut that wire, now you need to strip away the insulation to get to the copper. And with these needle nose pair of pliers, we're able to strip that wire and get down to the copper to make the repairs that need to be done. So having a pair of needle nose pliers are very important. So to review, we're going to have a Phillips head screwdriver, 11/32 nut driver, a 1/4" nut driver, flathead screwdriver, and a pair of needle nose pliers. Now, those are the top 5 tools, in my opinion, that you should always have whenever you go service your vending machine, especially for new vendors. Now, I have a few other tools here that I want to bring to your attention to kind of up your game, or pro tools that I always like to have. The first one is going to be a flashlight. Now, a lot of people nowadays use their cell phone as a flashlight. And I've always found this kind of awkward, having this rectangular device shine in there. So if I have just a nice narrow, flat or narrow flashlight, is the word I'm trying to use, a flashlight, you can actually kind of use this with your tool to kind of locate the screw, and instead of having to have a second hand, so here you can hold back some wires and use this to get that with the flashlight on to kind of locate the screws you're looking for. So again, having a nice narrow flashlight is very important. The next tool would be a fine tipped flathead screwdriver or Phillips head screwdriver. So here's a little trusty Vendo, was given to me by Vendo. So a lot of your pentometers or adjustment screws on your vending machines require a fine tipped Phillips head or a fine tipped flathead. So having a couple of these in your tool bag is very, very important. The next tool I would find, let's say you can't find a nut driver like this. You can always get a socket set. So I happen to have a cheap little socket set here. And with a socket set, I always like to get deep sockets. This again, we can use this to get to our 1/4" screws or our 11/32 nuts, etc. with this. So for example, I'm going to put this down here. You always want to get one that has extensions. So here's the actual ratchet. I'm going to put on the first extension. And I'll put on the second extension. And I'm going to grab an 11/32 deep socket. So again, this will act just like our nut driver to remove that nut that's holding on that bill acceptor or credit card reader. So again, having a full set of deep socket set, ratchet, whatever you like to call it, is a great tool to have on hand. Keeping with sets of tools, having some open-end wrenches, a full set of open-end wrenches like this is very, very important, particularly the 9/16. So we'll grab that. So having a 9/16 open-end wrench is going to help you remove the bolts that hold a lot of the compressor decks on drink machines such as Dixie Narco, Royal, and Vendo. As a matter of fact, I have a video that I'll link either here or here where I use a 9/16 to remove the bolts that are holding on a Dixie Narco 501E compressor. So again, having a 9/16 open-end wrench, better yet, if you can get yourself an entire set of open-end wrenches, you've got all your bases covered. The next one is going to be a good old pocket knife. This is my pocket knife that I carry every day. Having this allows me to cut anything. I can even use it as a flathead screwdriver if I need to, but just having a pocket knife I find is very, very useful. Just one of those tools I never leave home without. The other tool here is going to be what I consider the vending machine mechanics duct tape, and that is electrical tape. So a nice roll of electrical tape is going to help many things. We can fasten wires in the machine. We can take a piece of this and cover up the coin insert on your snack machine if it's no longer taking coins, etc. And we can even bind up those wires that we've stripped to repair. So using that electrical tape is going to help bind that up until we can get a temporary fix till we come back and put a proper wire nut on there or butt connector or splice connector on that. So again, a little bit of electrical tape never hurts to have on hand. And the last but not least is going to be my favorite tool. I'm going to do a little tutorial here, and that is going to be a multimeter or a voltmeter, particularly one that's got a tone continuity test. So what is that, Alex? Well, a tone continuity test allows us to check wires and make sure they're not broken from one end to the other. So as a matter of fact, I'm going to turn the dial to the continuity, and if you look there, what we're looking for is the actual, looks kind of like a cell phone signal. That means it's got tone. So what does that do? Well, if we take the probes on our voltmeter, and if I was to touch the two probes together, we're going to get a tone signal, such as that. What that means is that we've got continuity, there is a connection. So if we go back over here, let me grab this wire. So with continuity, we can check, let's say we've got a wire in the back of the cabinet of our snack machine. We want to trace it all the way back to where it plugs into the control board. It may be broken somewhere in that pathway. So having this wire, I'm going to go ahead and use a dirty example here. I'm going to go ahead and stick the probe in here. And so I've got the probe on this going into this side of this connection here. And at the exposed copper end here, if I touch this, I have tone. So what that is, it tells me that there is no broken connection from this point to this point. From point A to point B, there's nothing broken. Now, if there happened to be something broken here like that, there was no wire, I would have no continuity. So we know that that wire would be broken. For example, I've had several customers that say, hey, my top row A1 selection is not working, and it happens to be all the ones, so A1, B1, C1, etc. isn't working. So I always tell them, well, hey, well, let's go ahead and check the wire back to the control board. And more often than not, when you have a voltmeter with continuity test, helps us quickly track down to say that we have a broken wire that can be very easily fixed with that electrical tape. Another important thing when you have on these multimeters is to check the voltage coming out of the wall. A lot of times you may get an account where it's in an old building and you may not have good current coming out of the wall. So before you plug your machine in, you can stick a light bulb or an extension cord plugged up to a light to check the voltage. We don't know what the actual voltage is. So having a voltmeter that you can check AC current, and I've actually got this set right now for AC current, we can check to make sure we've got the proper amount of voltage here in the US that will vary from 110, 117 to 120 volts AC coming out of the wall before you plug your machine in there. Or you may walk up to your machine and the lights aren't on and nothing is working and you don't know if the outlet's bad or the breaker's been tripped on outlet. So having a voltmeter allows you to probe that outlet to check to make sure that you've got the proper voltage coming out of the wall is one way to make sure your machine is up and operating. Other one would also on your voltmeter is to be able to check DC current. Most control boards on vending machines will operate off the DC current. Most of them will do 24 volts DC current, some do 24 and 12, but we'll have a transformer. So we can check to make sure the voltage coming out of that is the proper 24 DC current by setting it to DC current as it shows here. So again, this is what I would believe is my favorite tool to have. Again, I've had this voltmeter for close to 25 years now, and I never leave home without these. I can't say this is probably, I've fixed so many or troubleshooted so many problems on vending machines just learning to understand how to use a simple voltmeter or multimeter. Again, when you're looking to buy one, just try to make sure you get one that's got the continuity test, your symbol with the arrow, and I know there's going to be people yelling at me because I don't know the proper name for that, but I know that's continuity again with the little logo that looks like a cell phone. Tells me, we've got actual tone. There are multimeters out there that don't make a tone. At least in this, you can have this sitting out there and we can just check your continuity and just by listening for the actual tone. So that kind of gives you an overview of tools. Again, there are plenty more tools you might want to have in your tool bag. But going back to what our first original 5 tools, just having that Phillips head screwdriver, your 11/32 and 1/4 inch nut driver, and your flathead screwdriver along with your needle nose pliers. Having that on hand always whenever you go service, fill, or restock your vending machine is going to help you keep that machine in operation and profitable. A machine that is not working is a machine that is not making money. If you found this video useful, we really do appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, please leave a comment below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.